Franklin County Commissioners meeting, January 17th, 2018.
Good morning. Welcome to the regular weekly meeting of the Franklin County Board of Commissioners. Today is Wednesday, January 17, 2018. Note for the record that Commissioner Cook is here, County Administrator Johnson is here, and myself, Commissioner Peck, the current chair. Commissioner Miller is out of town on county business today. We expect him back next week. And for your planning purposes, starting next week, the board is moving to a every Tuesday schedule. So the next meeting will be next Tuesday, and then each Tuesday thereafter. So it'll be a permanent change from Wednesdays to Tuesdays, and we hope that doesn't inconvenience anyone too much. So with that, we'll call a meeting to order, and for those who would care to, and hopefully that's everybody, please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item of business on the regular agenda is the reappointments of public servants to the Pest and Disease Control Board. I understand that that's going to be presented by Mr. Wilson. Tom?
Yeah.
Sure. Come on up, please. Just feel free to have a seat, and just because we record these for the record, I think it's always good to maybe just give a quick summary of
How this happens?
well, what the organization does for the community, and just in a few sentences, and then why we're here today.
The Pest Board basically tries to protect the fruit industry by educating homeowners, responding to orchardists that have complaints about problems in their orchard, going around their orchard trying to find problem trees. Also try to prevent a particular disease like cherry leaf roll virus from infecting orchards. We have one guy that does nothing but that, looks at every cherry tree in the county. Probably gets about 1,500 acres a year in, and to find that virus, we're averaging something like 200 trees a year that have that virus, which get removed, the stumps fumigated, and then go back the next year and find out if the fumigation reached a tree nearby, then you take it out too, because that means that the virus, which spreads by roots, could go that far. Then we have the apple maggot program, which is run by the state, but we have an inspector who, besides the regular trapping and stuff he does, checks those apple maggot traps every week. And so far, the last 3 years, I think, we haven't found any apple maggots, which is fine. We found a couple several years ago. In that case, you got to take out that, you got to leave that tree alone, you spray it, and then the next season you spray it again, and then you cut it down and destroy it and fumigate the stump.
So, Tom, how many people do you have on your team doing this work?
3, including myself.
So you got
3, including myself.
okay.
So
Those are the employees, and
Right.
and you have a board that oversees your activities.
We have a board of directors.
How many folks are on that?
Supposed to be 5.
And how many vacancies we have right now?
We have 1 vacancy right now. What happens is in the late fall or late summer, early fall, September at the latest, I asked the board, when their terms are going to be up in February 1st, do you still want to be on here? Well, 3 of them said yes, and I'm saying cool. The 4th one said no, and that was Ed Skelton. He was our chairman at the time, and so we're still trying to find somebody from him. I go to my employees who know other orchardists. I go to other orchardists and ask them for names. I've got several names of people that I'm calling to find out if they would be willing to be on the board. Otherwise, it's pretty well. I tell the board members when they want to get off, they can't do it until they find a replacement, because it's not something everybody just jumps on it.
Fairly difficult to find someone to replace. So I understand the package today is we've got 3 folks that you want us to reappoint who are currently on the board who had said that they'll stay on.
Correct.
And we've got a 4th position that you'll have to go out and advertise for.
Advertise, hunt, bug, call,
Okay.
tester.
And just a quick note then before we move on. It's been the practice of the board to, anytime we have these community service positions, that we advertise these openings so that, 1, it makes it easier for you to find people, and 2, although it's rare, we do occasionally have people come up and say, gee, I would have served on that. I never knew that opening was available. So,
The county's supposed to run a position opening too, aren't they?
well, you're talking volunteer board members, not employees, right?
Right.
Okay, yeah, then we wouldn't necessarily run a position opening, would we, Carly?
No, there's a separate page on the website that has board positions open.
Volunteer positions.
Correct. The only
Right.
one listed right now is the disability
Yeah.
board, so we can.
Yeah, well, I
Add test board to it.
Yeah, the practice with all the boards for at least the last several years has been to advertise these so that everybody in the community has a shot at them, and also to help you find people, because I recognize that usually the difficulty is in finding somebody, not in leaving somebody out. So, Commissioner Cook, anything to?
Yeah, Tom, do you work with the nurseries to try to prevent some of these trees being planted?
Yeah, but they've got a right to sell them, people got a right to buy them. What we do is plant it at the nurseries, we give them a bunch of our flyers. We do offer a $60 reward to people who cut out, take down their fruit tree.
Right.
We also give them spray charts. We have little plastic things that sit on the counters in the nurseries that offer our $60 reward if they take one out. Spray charts, how to take care of the tree if they do decide to buy one. Let them know their legal responsibilities for taking care of the tree.
So there's some proactive work.
Yeah, we even inspect the orchards, or the nurseries. A few years ago, not recently, but a few years ago, I found several apple maggot infested trees over at one of the nurseries. So, yeah, so they had to take off that fruit or get rid of it, you know.
Yeah, all right. I have nothing further, and I would move for approval of Resolution 2018-018, reappointing the 3 board members to the Horticulture Pest Disease Control Board.
Okay, a second. Any other comments or questions, discussion?
The only other thing is if a lady by the name of Katie Huntley is our state representative from WSDA, Department of Ag, and then of course Gwen Hoheisel is our ex-official member for the WSU.
Okay.
So she does both.
Great. Well, I would appreciate it if when you have vacancies, you advertise them so that all our citizens have an opportunity to at least know that it's there. And who knows, maybe they'll see it and they aren't interested, but they'll refer someone else. It just might make it easier for you to find somebody.
Yeah.
So I know it can be tough. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Hearing no other discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you very
That is
much.
approved. Thank you, Tom. Okay, next item on our agenda this morning is request for authorization to hire an additional felony panel member for Franklin County Superior Court, and our Public Defense Manager, Mr. Ziegler. If you would, sir, just give us a brief summary of what it is we can do for you.
Well, I sent you the ASR. I basically kept it as short and sweet as I could.
Thank you.
The number of filings, we went from 660 cases in 2016 to 801 in 2017. At the same time, when I got hit with that, I have been looking at the population projection figures for the county, and just based on the time that I've been here, we have this situation where we have to scramble around at the end of every year because the panel guys are hitting their 145 caps September, October, so that means I've got to hire people to cover those last basically 60 days. But as I indicated to Keith and what I put in the ASR, you can see what we paid on conflict overflow. We ended up paying more than we would have paid a full-time person if I'd had them on board for the whole year.
You're going to pay it out of contingency funds or pay it out of salary, either way. And it's a must pay. The state doesn't give us an option.
One of the things I learned in the military was the smaller the unit, the better the cohesion, and the easier it was to lead and to manage. And when I came here, I really thought, hey, I can contain this, and we can run an efficient operation with just the amount of people we need. We'll spend just the amount of money we need. And then you get hit with these kind of numbers, and of course I have to answer to you, and I got to answer to Olympia and Seattle, and I'm at my wit's end. I'm just going to have to accept what's on the table. These are the numbers.
Yeah.
I do see where some bills are being dropped again this year, and have been for, what, 3 or 4 years that I'm aware of is for OPD finances, but it's going on deaf ears in Olympia at this point.
They won't listen. They're not going to listen. And as an aside, we're writing letters now that the Bar Association now wants to amend the rule. Every 4 years, we have had a candidate for bar president from east of the Cascades. Well, they want to eliminate that now because this is the King County corridor is going to run this entire show, whether we like it or not. And that's part and parcel of what we're dealing with here. Now, I can tell you this. I've got a couple of people I'm looking at, and we're paying $87,000 this year to our felony people. If I can hire them, if you approve it for February or March, I'm going to at least try to hire them at less than the 87 since it's only a partial year. I can save some money there. Sure. But I can actually sit here with a straight face and tell you I can justify this now. We got to stop chasing this bus every year. Come September, October, it's starting to cost us too much money.
Yeah.
I don't know if I saw it in your ASR, but it was a good reminder that the counties are actually, by virtue of the state constitution, we're agents of the state government. We're not an entirely and wholly separate level of government like people think. We're agents of the state. And it's interesting that the state can levy requirements on us acting as their agents and then say it's our requirement but we're not going to pay for it. I suspect at some point that gets challenged. I don't know if it will be effective, but it just it takes unfunded mandates to a new level when you're acting as their agent. And
the whole concept of unfunded mandates out of control. I'm sorry, it's top down and it's
Yep.
Well, anyway, that's where we're at on the felony thing.
Yeah, and I appreciate the concise ASR. It's good information. I like to have a little discussion on the record because there are other people in the courthouse who are listening. These go on the website for people out in the county to listen to, and especially when we're spending more money, or in this case, I think we're spending less because we're just spending it in a different way, a more efficient way. I just like for people to have the opportunity to understand what's going on. So appreciate that.
Well, I can also report we did get our state grant. We got our 85-2 this week.
All right.
Well, good.
We sent that to you.
Good. Thank you. Well, we appreciate all you're doing and recognize that it's unfunded and a state requirement. So,
all right.
With that, I move for approval of Resolution 2018-019, authorizing OPD to hire an additional member on the panel.
Okay, and I'm happy to second. We have a motion and a second for approval of 2018-019. Any other comments or discussion from the board? Keith, anything to add? No? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that is approved. Thank you.
I'll go to work on it.
Thanks. Okay, we've reached that point in our agenda, actually a minute and a half early, which is pretty remarkable for me. Public comment. Anybody in the audience that would wish to speak with the board today on anything related to county governance or county business, please come on up to the mic. You're not required to tell us your name and address, but we always like to know that you're at least a citizen we represent.
Good morning. Hector Alamillo. I was wanting to know where we're at with those signs or the speed signs on Werner Road. I have a memo from August 16th to the commissioners from Keith Johnson, updating the commissioner on the information that gathered by the county engineer in regards to the speeding problem on Werner Road. Public Works Director Matt Mahoney and County Engineer Greg Erdman have suggested installing a solar-powered speed sign, and that Mr. Mahoney would be working with Sheriff Raymond on the placement of these signs. I called Sheriff Raymond the other day, last week or so, to see if that had been done, if anything in talks had been taken place about this, and nothing. And so I'd like to find out from Mr. Mahoney if what the holdup is, or her.
Well, coincidentally, Mr. Mahoney is here today.
Yeah.
Why don't you
No,
come
I
on
know,
up?
I know. So.
And so is Mr. Johnson. And the sheriff.
I know, that's good, isn't it? Not everybody in here.
Yeah. So the last I recall, Matt, if it helps, was that we had discussion about speed bumps, speed tables, speed signs, and you had, and correct me if I get any of this wrong, I'm working from memory without notice, but speed bumps tended to have potential liability and safety concerns because of speed and unexpected and being kind of steep. Speed tables, in many cases, ended up with the community protesting, and then you had the cost of removing them. It turned out that once they were in, people found them very objectionable. And then we settled on the idea that perhaps an electronic, getting some feedback somewhere, perhaps an electronic speed sign, either solar powered or something else, might be an option. And it seems like I recall you saying that, and you didn't use these words, but it was in some respects a feel-good measure, and it didn't tend to have much effect on speed unless it was tied to enforcement. So any of that missed the mark, and anything you can add?
Everything you said is accurate. I will add that the actual speed signs themselves have proven to be effective for a much longer period of time, but certainly enforcement is always, along with any of the regulatory signs in the county, is always the most effective way to deter people from speeding. I will also add that the board did ask, I had mentioned that we were going to combine this with other projects, similar projects, to get economy of scale, and the board did ask that we make this a high priority. There's also been some new directives coming from WSDOT, Washington State Department of Transportation, on the types of signs, the types of illuminated signs per se that are used in at crosswalks, as well as other similar type signs, and this would fall in that we're looking into to make sure that we're going to be specking out the right sign and there won't be any issues in the future, and that's fairly new. So we are looking at that. This is a high priority. The only excuse I have for not having it done at this point is our staff has still been working incredibly hard to still recover from the flooding damage that we had last year. Our engineering staff is still working tirelessly with FHWA and with the Department of Military, FEMA, on getting everything done there. But I will assure the board that we'll make this a priority, and I'll come back next week if the board would like and report to you on an actual timeline where we can get this work accomplished.
Mr. Cook?
Well, I think that's all. I know that engineering side of the FEMA issue is quite a priority from trying to get some.
It's been a lot of work. We have a very small engineering staff, as the board knows anyways, and we are there's 2 people that are devoted almost full time to that process of working with them and making sure they're still getting all the documents they need. But that's not a good excuse. We still have other work that needs to be done, and we're committed to do that work, and we will work tirelessly to get this accomplished as well.
Matt, somewhere in the back of my mind, it seems like we asked the question, does this qualify for any of the safety improvement grants, like the money that we're using up in Basin City for the crosswalk? Would this qualify for that kind of funding?
Yes.
Okay, and are those the kinds of projects you were hoping to join this in with?
That is correct.
And
yes.
So do we have a package of those kinds of projects that are underway now?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
So
we've got an actual package, we've got federal funding we can use,
yeah.
and we can add this one in.
Yeah.
So maybe just in a sentence or two, what does that look like for the average uninitiated person like myself? What's that really mean to add that into a package? What's that process?
Well, as you know, anything with working through Federal Highways Administration it's pushing paperwork, and what they look at is obligation of funds, and you got to certainly meet certain milestones before they'll obligate get to the point where they're obligating construction funds. So it's a paper process initially, and we also have to meet milestones, whether that be environmental milestones. And some of the things that some people don't realize is we do have to look at the environmental impacts of anything we do, including putting up signage and all of that. So it's to include it in that package, which is what we originally intended to do, and be able to use some federal dollars. It means we have to dot our I's and cross our T's. That being said, we certainly could do this project and fund it outside of that package that we had submitted for safety funds for doing very similar projects elsewhere throughout the county.
And doing it with local funds?
Yes.
And that would accelerate the process?
That's correct.
A lot.
A lot.
Because with the federal government, you've got to complete step A, and then once they approve it, then you can do B, and once they approve that, then you can do C, and you can't move beyond until they approve each one, right?
That is correct.
So I'd be interested, Commissioner Cook, in your thoughts that because the gentleman has been obviously very patient and has been diligent in coming back and asking for this for a long time, I wonder if maybe we want to take this one as a one-off project with local funds and treat it as a demonstrator for research to see if it's effective, and if it is, then we can look at a bigger package with the federal funding process.
Well, that is fine, but as Matt said a little while ago, he's got his engineers trying to get FEMA money back in our coffers. It was near a $5 million flood last year that we're trying to collect for. So I don't disagree with the thought of using local money, but still got to be able to work with his engineers and to set that up. So it's a twofold
Right. Yeah, I think
process.
I think you make a good point. I was just looking for a compromise between the delay of the federal process and the obvious delays and frankly the higher priority of recovering that FEMA money. There's no saying when everything's a priority, nothing's a priority, and while this has been described as a priority, I think the FEMA stuff does have to come first, but we can at least compromise and look at this one-off as a local with local funds and then use it as a bit of a test bed to see if it's worth doing on a bigger scale countywide.
Yeah.
That might also address the issue of once we put one up, if we have requests for a bunch more, we can at least explain the approach we've taken, which is to do an initial one as a research, and then any more would be on a broader scale with federal money.
Yes. And I appreciate what you said, Commissioner Cook, but I think it's important to know that if we're not bundling it with the federal funding that we have received for doing these types of projects, do it as a one-off, the engineering time is lessened, for lack of a better term. So we could certainly, separating this from that, doing a one-off, as you stated, we certainly, it's not, that part of it won't be very time consuming. All we're doing is just speccing and then going through a bid process.
Sure. Well, maybe during or after the meeting, you gentlemen can have a side meeting and you can kind of explain what the process is and what you think the timeline's likely to be.
Okay. Perfect.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks. Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak with the board on public comment time? Do we have any mics on down there that are picking up? Maybe that'll help with the feedback. Maybe it's just on. Yeah, they're both on. Okay. All right. Okay, next item on the agenda this morning is office business. Have we got payroll and warrants to address?
We've got three of them in front of us this morning. The first being fund expenditures, about 12 miscellaneous different current expense, trial court improvement, solid waste, etc. Bottom line is $300,284.50, and Keith has looked at this along with Mr. Deaton and Basic Stein.
Okay, take that as a motion for approval. I'm happy to second. Any comments or questions? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes on a vote of 2-0. Go ahead and sign this one. Give it back to you.
Move for approval of salary clearing payroll and emergency management payroll. The bottom line of $746,391.81. And Mr. Beaton and Raul Ramirez will sign.
Okay. Second that as well. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Third and final is county road and motor vehicle payroll. Bottom line is $112,441.78. And again, Mr. Beaton has signed and Ronald is co-signed.
Okay, and I'll second this as well. All in favor, please say aye.
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 And that was the last and final.
Okay. Bills are paid. And I know that we've had the benefit of read aheads to look at all the items on the consent agenda. And
Mr. Chairman, I would move for approval of the consent agenda as presented 1 through 5.
okay, happy to second. Any discussion or comments on any of these 5 consent agenda items?
I have none.
Okay, nor do I. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, consent agenda is approved as presented. We're going to schedule a bit. Let's go ahead and sign these documents now, if that's okay. That's why we need a rubber stamp. That's right. We should petition the legislature to let us do all this electronically because we don't have enough trees in our county. This is all one package. I'm going to send it in sections if that's okay. There's the next piece. Next. And last one. Very good, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is office administration business. Over to you, Mr. Johnson. I see you've got 2 items.
Actually, just one out of your offices or executive session request. Request executive session for board for up to 25 minutes with Teresa Chen from the prosecutor's office, Matt Mahoney, and Lauren Wilson from Public Works to participate in that discussion with the board under RCW 42.30.110, paragraph 1, subparagraph I, to discuss with legal counsel litigation, potential litigation.
Okay,
So is that 25?
You said up to 25.
That's 25.
So it is 9:32, we'll call it. We'll go into executive session as soon as we have an opportunity to secure the room. And it's been our practice, and we wouldn't do this if we didn't believe it complied with the intent of the state statutes, but rather than going out for a full 25, we reserve the right to come out early. So if we're able to conclude our business in 10 minutes, we'll reconvene in 10 minutes, so that no one is surprised. So we'll be in executive session for up to 25 minutes. Thank you. Okay, we have concluded our executive session. We did use all 25 minutes. We're back in open session on the record. It's approximately 9:58. Next item on the published agenda is public comment. Not seeing any members of the public here and anticipating that staff don't have any other comments, or do you? Anybody? Okay, not seeing any there. Is there any other business before the board that we need to address today?
I don't think so.
Anybody? Okay, the only comment I would offer is that I'll be visiting with legislators over in Olympia tomorrow, and I'm sure it'll be a bit of a learning curve. I've done this a few times, but if anybody's got any issues that they want communicated to state reps or state senators over there, you likely have my cell phone number. Feel free to give me a call. Make productive use of my time.
OPD, the court clerk discussion this morning.
I've got OPD on the list. Thank you. Absolutely right.
And Hearst.
And Hearst. And
I think are two of the counties'
yep.
larger issues, not necessarily the only by any means. But
Yeah, but you know, if we could get fixes to those two, that'd be a huge step forward. Okay, well, last call for any other business. I'm trying to stop right at 10 o'clock. This is 8 seconds. Yeah, I know.
drive safely.
All right, thanks very much. It is exactly 10 a.m. We're adjourned. Actually, I just didn't want to steal the record.